Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you're watching my 100% walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Nintendo Wii. In this video we're going to be tackling Lake Floria and meeting up with the Water Dragon at long last. As soon as you enter you'll see this nice cinematic of the area, but it doesn't actually have anything of interest here, so after the cinematic is done we can finally progress on to the next area. So swimming in Skyward Sword is actually pretty nice, as long as you have a big open space to swim in. If it's kind of confined corridors, it can be kind of obnoxious, but generally speaking, all you do is you just hold A and then tilt around with the Wiimote to direct where you want to swim. And you can also shake the nunchuck to dash forward, and they have some of these characters in this next room are talking about that. We have a new race here called Parellas. I suppose this is the Skyward Sword equivalent of the Zoras, or maybe this is where the Zoras came from originally. Maybe they evolved out of these guys, but regardless, Parellas are silly, and they constantly make funny comments all the time. But like I was saying, some of these parallels will give you various tips on how to move in the water. And one of those tips is that you can shake the nunchuck to move forward. This allows you to bonk into things and also just increase your speed a little bit. So as you move forward, you'll come to this wooden barrier, and this particular parallel that we are chasing will sneak through the wooden barrier in order to get away from us, and it thinks that we cannot follow it. But if you dash into the wooden barrier by shaking the nunchuck while swimming in that direction, you will break through. So that's what we need to do in order to progress. And as always with just about any portion of Skyward Sword, if you're ever unsure of the different controls that you have available to you, you can always press 2 on your controller. None of the characters in this particular room talk about that, but this might have been a handy place for the developers to put that in as a reminder to players. So just remember, when in doubt, bonk your head against things. It solves problems. So dashing forward can be used to increase your speed. So if you have, in particular like these bubbles up ahead, since we know we're going to have some extra air anyways, you can dash forward to get there a little bit faster and you're going to replenish your air anyway. But dashing does consume more stamina than just swimming regularly. That's true in the regular game. However, in particular, this is very true in Hero Mode. In Hero Mode, you consume significantly more stamina when you dash underwater, so that can be a problem and you can suffocate very easily. So just be aware of that. Eventually we can buy air potions from Love's shop up in Skyloft, and those are very handy as well. However, they aren't available until after the next several videos, so it's like after we're already doing all these swimming sections and we finally have air potions available to us, which is really sad. That particular one actually is kind of an exception in that we don't really need an air potion here, but there is another area of the game later where we have to swim as well, and it's very handy for that portion, so I will point it out once we get to that point. The whole concept of air potions is kind of weird since we have an air wheel for this as well. So you have stamina wheels and you have air wheels, and so you have a separate potion for each one. It's like literally just underwater stamina. In this next room, we need to blow open the rocks, and to do so you need to dash into the Froak, and funnily enough, when you bonk into them using the dash attack like that, you don't actually take damage. In this first one I took damage because it blew up next to me, but regardless, it just pushes them away, so you just bonk them into the stones. This will reveal various alcoves. The only one you have to use is actually just straight ahead, and otherwise all the rest of these just lead to rupees, and as well as a clue though, the one in the very middle that I broke first leads to a silver rupee, which is worth 100, and I'll get that here in just a little bit. Off to the right side there is also a Parella behind the rocks that is next to the bird statue, which you can optionally save at. Now this one, because it's underwater, you can't actually fly to it, and this is a quick note too. I've mentioned this before in the walkthrough, but the bird statues, some of them have their wings just by their sides, another one have them slightly extended. The ones that are slightly extended are the ones that you can fly to the surface and land on, but the other ones that have their wings right up against their sides are ones that you can only save at. Next to that bird statue is another one of these alcoves that has a Parella inside. It doesn't seem too concerned that you let it escape or whatever. Maybe it was hiding in here very contentedly because there was Froak out here, but whatever. It shows you the correct alcove that leads onward, and then at the end it also says that you shouldn't tell anyone that it told you the secret because it's a secret to everybody. This is a reference to the original Legend of Zelda, in which you would break open caves that were blocked with cracked rocks like that, and you would find hidden rupees in there, and the moblins would let you have it, but tell you not to tell anyone because it's a secret. So this is kind of a funny little cameo appearance, or a reference to a previous thing. It's often used kind of as a joke almost in the Zelda series. I think that's the only one like that in this particular game for that particular quote, but it's kind of an ongoing thing of like something to look for in Zelda games as you're playing through, is that particular quote. I think most games in the Zelda series have that quote. You know, actually, I've never heard of anybody having a list of those quotes somewhere, but like which games actually use that specific quote and some of the other ones. There's a lot of iconic quotes like that that are used. You often see people using them as memes and stuff. Might be kind of an interesting YouTube video for someone to like have a video of all the various cameo appearances and talk about them, where they came from, and which games have them. But yeah, it's kind of like trying to find Stan Lee in all the various Marvel movies. So you just trying to figure out, or trying to keep an eye out for him. Once you realize it's a thing, then you're on the lookout for it. So there's several quotes in Zelda games where they repeat them in different games, or not repeat them, whatever. You see that quote in a game used in a different context, and it's funny because it's a reference to something. In this next room, our Perella escort will swim through the nearby bars, and if you can't figure out what to do, you can actually just speak with the nearby Perella who gives you a tip on what to do next. So by swimming a little bit under the surface of the water and then shaking the nunchuck to dash forward, you can also use that to go out of the water. If you break the surface of the water while doing that, then you will leap upwards and go pretty high. It's actually pretty forgiving. Like, it, generally speaking, tends to give you the most amount of height possible. Even if you're doing it at a small angle, it'll still make you go, like, pretty high up and get a lot of distance. I think they did that to just make it a little more user-friendly, so if you didn't quite hit it at just the right angle, that you would still complete your puzzles, whatever you were trying to do. It makes it very easy to get up on top of ledges and stuff like that of dry land, like this one up ahead. I think they were trying to really utilize this feature. Like, you could do dolphin jumps in Majora's Mask, and there is various times where it's super helpful. However, it's not required ever. I don't think there's actually any point where you actually have to do it in that game, but it is handy, especially for the last boss. But 3DS version did make it easier as well. However, it's, again, not required for anything. And I think this is easier still because it gives you the forced distance. It doesn't do that in Majora's Mask at all. So up ahead we have a bird statue. Now this one you can actually save at, and you can warp here from your bird as well. So you can go to the sky from this one and come back here. And there's a chest up here. I'm not sure if this one always has a goddess plume, hopefully, because goddess plumes are pretty rare. So make sure you grab this chest, and then we also nearby have a goddess cube. This particular one leads to a silver rupee, which is worth 100. Now, I've talked about this before in the walkthrough, but it's more noticeable here especially. When you have these great big chews, you can actually just use side slashes. If you do it really, really fast, you can kill the chews that way, which is kind of funny because they sort of make it seem like you're really, really supposed to just like use downward slash or horizontal use vertical slashes, because if you start with horizontal slashes, it won't work. But the reality is, if you use a lot of horizontal slashes really fast and just flail like crazy, then you can actually kill them very quickly. To get back over to where we just were, you can either walk around the long way or you can jump back over here. So if you do happen to fall down, all you have to do is spin jump to get out of here as well. Continuing on down to the next hole, there is the Perella that we were chasing after. But if you look off to the side, there is actually one more Perella. This one gives you optional information about an upcoming enemy we're about to see. Alright, so continuing to follow our escort, there is a bunch of these Mew in the water, is I think what they're called. There was some a little bit earlier in here too. You can actually just dash through them, I believe, but I think they hurt you. But anyways, you just want to avoid them if you can, and then spin jump over this next grating as well. So here we have a new enemy. This is called a Craniac. So you dash at them the first time, it will stun them, and then dash at them a second time to defeat them. As far as I know, you don't actually have to dash into the X on their forehead. It's like a big clue that you can do something there, is why it's designed that way. But I don't think it actually matters. I think you can dash at them from any direction, and then it will work. But yeah, you don't have to dash into them straight on their X at all, I don't believe. That's all we can do here, so head to the next doorway, and our companion will allow us to go through. So at this point, Fi has given us the option to douse for Sacred Water, and now where this eventually leads is actually back to the Skyview Temple. However, fun fact about that is after getting the Water Dragon Scale for completing the Faron Silent Realm, we actually already have access to the new updated Skyview Temple, and we could have gotten Sacred Water then. So if you actually did that first, and then you came here, you could already, after speaking with Faron, you could have already given her the Sacred Water right now. I think it actually does save a little bit of time to do it in that order. I didn't do it that way just for the sake of lore or whatever. It just feels like it breaks the game, or like there's no reason for you to know you can do that. But anyways, so we're going to do that here just a little bit though and do it in the proper order. Now continuing onwards, there is a couple goodies we can grab. There's actually some chests on either side of the room, and the one on the far left leads to a silver rupee, and the one on the far right leads to some treasure. So Evo crystals are a new type of treasure that we haven't gotten yet, and what they do is that you can find them from as a prize from various mini games. You can find them in some chests, but otherwise the place you find them is actually in this upcoming temple. In fact, there is actually a place where you can farm for them and get a whole bunch of them actually. I don't actually do that in this particular walkthrough, but if you want to get a bunch of Evo crystals, you totally can. Anyways, continue to the far north, which leads to an exit that is called the Lake Floria Waterfall. So from here, we can actually definitely use the bird statue so that you can get out of here. But before we do that, though, check this out. There is some blessed butterflies nearby, and as always, whenever you see them gathered together like that, you always want to play your harp. So press up on the D-pad, and then strum a few chords, and this will cause a gossip stone to appear that gives us a treasure. So one other optional thing you could do, I actually do this later in the walkthrough, but you could do it now, is there is actually a gold rupee up above on a platform just to our left, so if you use the beetle to fly up there, you can grab that real quick. There wasn't anything super pressing that I wanted to buy right now, so I wasn't worried about it, but just know that it is a thing. So go ahead and save at the bird statue, make sure you activate it, because this is a huge shortcut so we don't have to go through Lake Floria again. So before you leave, I would recommend you go over to the right, where there is a log you can push off the ledge to create a shortcut back to Faron Woods. This allows us to run back and forth through Faron Woods to get to Lake Floria, and you don't have to do this because we do have access to the bird statue, so you can just warp directly to Lake Floria. However, you know, it's just kind of, it's the principle of the thing, you know what I'm saying?
No shortcut left behind.
So now that we have completed the Lake Floria portion of that area, we now have even more harder enemies. There was some blue bokoblins earlier, but now that maybe it was after we completed the Great Tree. Maybe that's what caused this to happen. But now we have moblins throughout the Faron Woods in general. And one thing I was trying to show earlier is there's a couple different ways to defeat them. The most obvious way is just keep smacking at them, and you can't actually break their shield. And the best way to deal with moblins really is just to use a bunch of spin attacks. If you do break all of the shield, then they will have different attacks, and they'll actually use their spear two-handed instead. I actually find their spear attacks to be a little bit harder to avoid, generally speaking. Their shield is a little more predictable, in my opinion. Anyways, moblins don't actually leave any good treasure, really, so I think they don't even drop rupees all that often, honestly, so you can just avoid them for the most part, unless they're totally in your way. So you can fight them if you want to. They are kind of fun, though. I do think they're very interesting enemies. Now, you can just run all the way to Skyview Temple, especially if you made some shortcuts along the way with me. Like, I actually have a lot of shortcuts, so we can pretty much just run straight there. We don't have to go across any tightropes or any of those shenanigans. However, if some of you did not create all of the optional shortcuts, then it's probably faster to just go back to the bird statue, warp to the sky, and then go back to Faron and take the bird statue that leads to Skyview Temple. So that is the end of this video, folks. Join me for the next one, where we will return to Skyview Temple Revisited and get the sacred water for the Water Dragon. Hey.
What's up? Yo. Her Excellence is just up ahead. Please go in and speak with her.
Oh, go on. Talk with the Water Dragon.
What do these little guys say? Anything? Are the blue ones female and or how do you know? Do the colors denote anything? They're just Pirellas.
Oh, that one over there. He's dying to getting good with the Water Dragon. My advice, keep your distance. Nothing good will come from hanging out with that fin-kissing Pirella.
Good advice, thank you. Now I know. I wasn't planning on kissing any fins, but now I know who to avoid. Because they're the fin-kissing group.
I love my home here. I just wish it was a little easier to get in and out of the place.
That was my Charlie the Unicorn voice.